Today we're going to be taking a look at this 230 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery from Time USB, as well as this beefy 40 amp charger they sent along with it, this time on Ham Radio Tube. And here it is, the Time USB 230 amp hour 12.8 volt lithium iron phosphate battery. Now before we go too deep, I do need to tell you Time USB did contact me and ask if I'd be interested in reviewing one of their batteries in exchange for this video. Naturally, being a battery lover, I said yes. And Time USB has also set up a discount code for 6% off anything on their website with code K8MRD. Regularly, this battery is $459, but if you use code K8MRD, it is selling for $432.39 as of the time of this recording. So let's take a look at this battery. Again, 12.8 volt nominal. This is going to charge up to 14.6 volts, settle down somewhere around 13.3-ish, a massive 230 amp hour capacity. It is lithium iron phosphate, so the charge cycles are usually in the 2,000 to 4,000 range, depending on how deep you charge these. These will last years and years and years. Looking at the top, we have our connectors here, which can be either screwed on with a hex wrench or a Phillips head. You've got your negative and your positive, and they also send along some extra nuts, some little battery caps, and some clear plastic jobbies if you want to store it long term. And looking at the back, you can see 2,944 watt hours. Here you have some websites if you want to check them out or need service or anything, and they even got a cool little guy there in front of a Caravan. And on either side, we are presented with these nice two kind of plastic handles with rope that make this moving around nice and easy. As far as dimensions, we're looking about 17 5/8 wide. We're looking at about 9.5 inches tall and about 7 5/8 roughly at its deepest. We're also going to get this nice zippered pouch that's going to have our instruction manual and some stickers, and looks to be a quick start guide there. And taking a quick look at the product manual, you can see we have a 150 amp BMS inside of here. So 150 amps continuous discharge. It's going to monitor your cell voltage, keep the cells balanced. This does not have low temperature charging protection, so if that's a concern of yours, this might not be the ideal battery for you. They do have some batteries with low temperature charging protection, but I live in South Texas, so that's not really a concern of mine. I just care about current and capacity. And taking a look at the manual, here's the product overview. It's going to tell you the operating voltage, the recommended charging current, which is 46 amps, max continuous discharge current of 150 amps, and max continuous output power of 1920 watts. And it's going to show you what to do once you receive the battery, charge it up, connect the terminals, use it. Pretty self-explanatory there. And here we have the battery pack main parameters: lithium iron phosphate, your voltage, your capacity, the BMS, again 150 amps, constant current, constant voltage charging, charge voltage 14.4 plus or minus 0.2 volts, and again 150 amps, 300 amp max discharge current for 5 seconds, so that's cool. And then here we have our charge and discharge temperatures as well as storage. Here you've got some cable sizing parameters. Depending on how much current you're actually going to pull from this will depend on how much cable you use, so you do want to wire them properly. It's nice they put that little chart in there. And here we can see we can either connect these series or parallel up to 16 batteries. So that is freaking awesome. If you want to make a giant battery bank out of these, connecting 16 of them is certainly a way to do it. And then here they've got some diagrams as to how to set them up either in series or parallel configuration. Now here's where the review gets a little weird, because this is the 40 amp charger they sent me, but I just took a look at the website and they don't have this charger. So I'm not sure what to do about reviewing a charger that they don't have on their website anymore. But the 40 amp charger that they have on the website is $149.99, but with code K8MRD you save 6%, which makes it $140.99. But because I said I would, I'm going to. So this is the 40 amp charger they sent me. Comes with a nice 50 amp Anderson power pole connector. as well as this little jumper lead to connect to your batteries for charging, and that's really great. And the cool thing about this charger, this is gonna cycle through different screens here. So that's actually U as a V for voltage. So it's gonna show you the charging voltage. It'll cycle through the current that it's currently putting into the battery, as well as it will accumulate the number of amp hours that it has put into the battery. It is a little big, not gonna lie, but it's a 40 amp charger. It works great. I will say if you're a ham radio operator, keep this away from your radio. It does put out quite a bit of RFI, so a little bit noisy on the RF bands, but this is an awesome charger. Now, whatever the charger they have online now looks to be a good charger, but it doesn't have any of the numbers here. It's just a charger. It doesn't tell you anything. So that's my spot on the charger. Now, as far as capacity, this is rated at 230 amp hours. I did a discharge test at 10 amps, and I actually had to do 2 tests because I forgot to reset the counter on my capacity tester. So on the second test, I got 231.8-ish amp hours, which is probably a little bit less than the first test. So it definitely passes the capacity test, which is good. So now let's have some fun and see what this battery can do. Again, rated at 150 amp continuous BMS. So we're gonna start off with my heat gun. I've got a 3000 watt inverter we'll go ahead and plug in. I'm using 1/0 gauge pure copper welding wire. So let's see what we can do. Here we go. Just full blast right here. About 1340 watts on the inverter. We're pulling 118 amps on our meter there. We'll let this go for a couple minutes. All right, so it's been about 4.5 minutes now. The meter was showing a constant 121 amps being pulled out of it, 1340 watts. The terminals are still cool to the touch, nothing's heating. Let's get our little thermometer here. Terminals at 87 degrees, 86 degrees on that one. The battery case, about 84 degrees, 83 on the front. It's about 80 degrees in this room right now, so handled that like a champ. Let's put more current through it. So now we've got our parabolic space heater hooked up. Let's go ahead and crank that guy up to high, get that going. Pulling about 90-ish amps here, 1040 watts on the inverter. And we'll see if we can get over 150 amps and make this BMS trip. 88 amps, let's start this guy on low. Now we're already at 155 amps we're pulling, 1700 watts. Still at 154.7 amps. Give the BMS a little bit of leeway. And let's go ahead and crank the heat gun up to high and see if we have overcurrent protection. 204 amps. See how long that'll go. All right, so after about 3 minutes pulling a little over 200 amps, the BMS did not shut off. That's kind of worrying. Now, it could be a case of under-promising and over-delivering. I don't know how I feel about that, though. That BMS should have cut off within 5 or 10 seconds of having that high a load. So let's see what we can do to try and trip this. Now, I only have a 250 amp breaker on here, so I don't know if we'll be able to get it to trip 250. Either the breaker is going to trip or the BMS is going to trip, one of the two. So let's find out. All right, so now I brought in my vacuum and we'll see if we can get this thing to trip. I have no idea what kind of current draw this has. About 1100 watts there, 98 amps. Let's go ahead and turn the space heater on. And let's turn this on to high gear. 280 amps, 3060 watts, 279 amps. All right, well, after a few minutes at about 270 amps, the BMS did not shut off. Things are warming up a little bit, but that's more due to the cable is not really rated for that much current. So I mean, the battery itself doesn't feel very hot at all, but yeah, the wires are heating up here. Battery's at 88 degrees. Terminals are at about 100, 103-ish. But that's because of the cables. Oddly enough, my 250 amp breaker didn't break either, so I might need to look into that. But 150 amp BMS, we pulled 275 out of it for quite a few minutes, and it still didn't go off, which is a little concerning. So if you're just looking for something with storage, I would say this is fine. It has the capacity. I'm a little concerned about that BMS, so I'm gonna leave that up to you. I am going to say that I will not give this the K8MRD seal of approval because it just doesn't do what it's advertised to do. So thanks Time USB for sending this out. I do appreciate it. Hopefully you can look into your BMS and maybe change some specs or what you're actually getting out of this or whatever, because it's just not doing what you say. So anyway, that's my review. Again, links will be in the description if you do want to pick one of these up. My name is Mike, K8MRD. Thanks for watching Ham Radio Tube 73.